Were you busy?
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, man. It's been a minute since we've been able to build, and I got some things, surrounding Inoue that we're gonna get to. But I did a segment called Manic Mondays today, and I really made a petition to Errol Spence to really hear from him, and I just want to get your perspective, because I always say, man, right now these last couple months, or like pretty much the last maybe year and a half, I've been saying, there aren't any real OGs in boxing. Like on the streets, back in the day, if you was doing something out of order, out of character, at least the old heads had the common decency to say, hey, young blood, that ain't the way to do it, or I would do it like this. And I know you're getting used to it and accustomed to it, but the way of the new people right now, it's all about social media and a lot of the drama and the gossip. But you was around. I mean, not saying that drama and gossip hasn't always surrounded a fight, because you just had people that just didn't like each other. Mike Tyson, he was notorious, some of the things Mike Tyson said. But right now, I'm saying, man, there's no constant soothing voice. And so sometimes I kind of be radical in my approach, but part of my therapy, as well as the best part of my channel, is according to my old head. That's why I always check in with you. And I just be wanting to get your perspective, so that A, sometimes I can calm down, B, from somebody that doesn't have any vested interest in making any content or having any kind of persuasion on anything. It's just a good balance for me. You know what I'm saying? So my show needs it as much as we like having you on here. But looking at Errol Spence, we talked about the rematch resurfacing, and I know you had your opinions on whether or not he should take it, but I sent you something last week saying that he basically activated his rematch, right? And then we thought that we had, just like we thought we had Stanionis and Virgil Ortiz on deck, and that got pulled away from us. I mean, that fight was very close. That fight was like way in close. That was closer than the Jamel Charlo and Demetrius Andrade, where Andrade pulled out a week before. Now he's since recovered from his sins, but we get this Frank Martin and Shakur thing, and we had record that it was on and then it was off. And my whole thing was, I heard a lot of knee-jerk reactionists today, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna give Frank Martin a common courtesy of coming out and saying something other than I don't duck. That's what he did. He tweeted out that I don't duck SHIT, like I don't duck that, you know what I'm saying? And Shakur reposted cap. But Shakur's at his wit's end with opponents, and here we have Frank Martin with a lot of speculation that he got lowballed. And I'm like, no new information since it was announced that it was going down has come out since we heard that it was off on Saturday. And you was over here when we got the news at the same time. We was watching that show and we got the news at the same time. The only thing that come out was the tweet I just mentioned. And I said, you know what, I did a segment today about Earl. I'm Reloaded, using the Scarface clip, and I said, you know what, we need to hear from Earl for 7 different things. One, for his long-term fans who want to know, what's your status, what's your game plan, how you feel. We know you react. Did you change coaches? Did you is it true that something was wrong with you? Like, we need to hear from him in regards to the rematch. But then we also, as Frank Martin's promoter, we needed to hear from him. And I said, man, who better to ask about that than you, man? Because you're going to keep it all the way funky 10 times 10. So, I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, until we get some kind of clarification as to why Martin pulled out of this fight, we're kind of left at odds, because it appeared that this fight was on and that all parties had agreed to it, and then it seems as though the rug was pulled from under us in terms of this fight, and it was done without any type of explanation to give to the fan base so that we could understand exactly what's going on. I think that if Martin and his crew pulled out of the fight, there has to be a legitimate reason why. And that reason why should be put out so that the fan base understands exactly what's going on.
Right.
But as of right now, I don't think there's any promotional indication put out as to why it was done. And to me, something should be out there right now indicating what the loophole was in the fight. Because every time a fighter pull out of a fight, it's not always the fighter's fault for pulling out of the fight. But we want to know, why did you pull out of this fight? And there's been no explanation. And until an explanation is given, we all going to be at odds, because it is something that we don't know and don't understand, and we need to be made clear exactly what that is. So I think Martin's camp owe it to the public to come out with some explanation as to why this occurred.
Right, that's what I was saying. And I looked at, I said, because a lot of people are trying to put the duck bill on Frank Martin, and I said, okay, now this is what I can say. I can say that from the time the fight was announced, and it was for the WBC vacant, since Devin Haney is no longer undisputed and that belt is up for grabs. When that fight was announced, there was nothing from Frank Martin's side. And this is for all the people who think that I just be hating on Devin Haney arbitrarily, you know what I'm saying, just because, you know what I'm saying. I didn't for whatever reason, people pitting that tail on a donkey. It was like we didn't hear anything and saying, oh yeah, it's on, it's this and this, but sometimes silence is consent, so you didn't say anything, which means that, okay, it was all good, because if that was false information, you would have came out. Now that it's off, to only get a tweet, I think, like, along the lines of what you said, I mean, it's kind of owed to the public to kind of hear, what's going on, because, man, it's like, I be out there and hearing these conversations and be involved in some, trying to just stay in tune and stay involved. I'm a boxing junkie, so I'll be on it, but I'm like, we need answers. And I think it's unfair to us who support and promote fighters and have vested interest in their careers, because it's a rough career, you know what I'm saying, and we see how it ends for some of them. But I'm like, yeah, we do need to hear answers. Now, what about, because I know you thought about the whole rematch, we both had our reservations about a rematch, but we also got to hear from Errol as far as the rematch being announced and what I sent you. What do you think about hearing from Errol about that?
Well, right now, the ball's in Errol's court, because Errol has the rematch clause, and he has the right to initiate that rematch clause, okay? Whether I would agree with it, you or whoever, he has that right. And we all need to wait and see exactly what Errol is gonna do right now. Me personally, I wouldn't want to probably see him fight right away, because in that particular fight, Errol didn't do several things up to par in that fight. And I think Errol needs to work on a few things when fighting somebody like Crawford. And without the opportunity of actually working on some things in the gym and maybe getting another fight under his belt. And I don't think that an immediate rematch is the best solution for him right now, because he just didn't appear to be in that fight. It was almost like whatever he was told to do, he wasn't able to do it. Whether he tried or not, he could not make any adjustments in that fight. And he kept repeatedly getting hit with the same type of punches. And he was getting hit clean. At the end of the fight, you can look at his face and you could tell that he didn't lose that fight just because of one punch on the chin and he went down. Mm-hmm. He lost that fight over an accumulation of punches. And he literally was just beat down. So jumping right into another fight immediately without working on some things that could make this outcome a little different, I think, for me personally, it would be too fast to go immediately into a rematch without trying to fine-tune some things.
Now you said something that was very interesting. You said no matter what he was told, he could not make adjustments. Now, there was some rumors floating that he was going to move on from Derrick James. Now, from a couple different places where I watched and seen, a couple different places, they said that that's not true. But my question for you is, because, and I hate to point this out, but a lot of times, man, when it comes down to pulling down fighters, pulling down trainers, it's like, man, we go for the gusto. So a lot of people were saying, oh man, Derrick James, he ain't the trainer of the year, he don't deserve this, he don't deserve that. And then, the news came out that it might have been a change in trainers. And as a knee-jerk reaction, I said, oh no. I said, man, I definitely don't agree with that. And then, I got talked down off the ledge when I came across a couple videos, basically reiterating that there was going to be no change in coaches. But it's a two-part question for you. Just watching and following Errol and being a fan of Errol, and just watching boxing and watching, these different situations with trainers and coaches. What do you think about a change? And then if it's not a change, because I was saying, man, I said, man, I'm not with it. I said, that's be honest. I'm not with it. If he just straight up changed them, I wasn't with it. I'm like, nah, that would be a grave mistake, because I've seen people do that, and it's almost like as soon as you lose, it's almost like this. It's the unsaid scapegoat when you do that. But I was open, just like T.O. when people were saying he needed to fire his father. I was saying, nah, he don't need to get rid of his father. Just like even with Devin, I was like, nah, he don't need to get rid of his father. He need to bring in a different set of eyes. And I look at Jamel Charlo, even though Juan Guzman is nothing new to his camp, but he had that extra set of eyes, and I compared it to like having a kitchen with one, you can have one chef wherever you go. You like, dang, the food is bomb, but they only got one person back there. And then two, it's like, depending on when you go, that dictates how the food is, because there's too many chefs in the kitchen. Do you agree with Errol if that was true, which I heard that it wasn't? Do you agree with Errol changing coaches? And what do you think about the idea of him bringing in a different set of eyes for the next one?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I looked at in that particular fight, okay? I looked at that fight as Errol not being able to perform to the level of what we have always seen him. I don't think in this particular fight it was the coach's fault. It wasn't the trainer's fault. Errol was not able to perform efficiently on that particular night. And I will say this. I don't care if Derrick James gave him the best advice you could give a fighter. Because you give that advice, doesn't mean that that fighter is going to be able to go in there and execute. You could call the best play you possibly can call, but defensively, if your opposition is ready for it, and then you're not ready on defense for their offense, you're going to be offset. And it appeared in that particular fight, whatever Errol was trying to do, he was able to be countered by Crawford. Because Crawford would count him as he would duck down and throw the body punch. Crawford would throw the hook up to the head. And he consistently hit him with that counter punch. He constantly hit him with it, and Errol could not get away from it. So even if your fighter, your trainer tells you offensively something to do, if your opponent is able to counter with defense and nullify that, then it's not the trainer's fault. You could not execute. Crawford beat him on countering. He just kept countering and countering. Errol could not initiate a strong enough attack to put Terrence on true defense. So it wasn't, in my estimation, the coach's fault. The coaches told him what to do. He was not able to do it, and basically because he was getting countered. And the counter wasn't just an occasional counter. It happened the entire fight.
It's funny you said that.
Fight.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because, man, boxing on YouTube, it got crazy, man, because a lot of people was trying to blame Derrick James, and I'm like, man, I can't help but reiterate it. Me and you was saying it, you know what I'm saying? We heard it, and we heard the tutelage that Derrick James was giving, and it was almost reminiscent, even though this was a little bit worse, because I ain't gonna lie, man. When I seen Errol go down, I was like, bad news, you know what I'm saying? Like, what? Like, I was like, man, it's like everything slowed down for me. But when I was like, okay, cool, maybe that might wake Errol up. But when I started listening to what Derrick James was saying, it was reminiscent of when, not as bad, but when Jermell Charlo was going up against Castano, and he was telling him, look, stay off the ropes, man. Go to the body, pivot off. Like, Derrick James was saying, man, make him feel you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you keep doing the same thing. He's like, that's not gonna work. Like, he was coaching. So I'm like, people was trying to pin the tail on Derrick James, and I was thinking, man, was it just me? But I'm like, man, sometimes, this might be. I'm not jumping to no conclusions. It might have been that just Bud had his number, or you know what I'm saying, whatever the reason was, but it seemed like one of them times where no matter what your coach would tell you, you was not going to be able to fulfill it, because it seemed like that man had that up on you. Your opponent just had that up. He was just one step, faster than you. He was a little bit sharper. He was a little bit more sturdy, than you. And I think that in this whole process, it's like, dang, man, I say we devalue our fighters before fights, but we devalue our coaches, because you can't go from being a coach of the year, and we've seen some coaches lose it and not, really have any good sound counsel, but this was not one of those instances. So I'm glad you said that, because we didn't think that it was Derrick James. It was something else. It was maybe that was Bud's night. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he just had his number. That's what I was thinking. So for me, it kind of like get on my nerves a little bit to hear people like try to shame or pin it on Derrick James. It's like, no, that's a scapegoat. Errol didn't make no excuses. Even though everybody have their little things that they, speculate, Errol didn't make no excuses. Let's not pin that jacket on Derrick James.
Yeah, I agree with you. Errol was not going to execute that night. He was being counted, and he had no adjustment to the counters, because he was initiating what he was told to do, but he was being constantly countered. And I've never seen Errol countered to the degree and accuracy that Crawford was countering him with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of these punches, Errol wasn't even seeing them. And one of the punches that he was being countered with was the looping hook. As Errol would bend down to throw the body punch, he would get hit with that looping hook. And from a distance, Charlo said, no, he's hitting him behind the head. He's hitting him behind the head. He kept saying he's repeatedly hitting him behind the head. But what Crawford was doing, as Errol was bending down, moving in to throw the punch, he would throw the hook. And sometimes the hook would land on the side of the face, and then sometimes it might hit him towards the back of the head. But he was hitting him while he was moving in. So the punch didn't necessarily always land exactly in the same spot every time, because he was constantly countering him. And he did it so much that this particular punch, Charlo wanted to say he was intentionally hitting him behind the head. He wasn't. He was constantly hitting him and catching him where he was catching him as he was moving in. And that particular punch right there is the punch that Errol is gonna have to work on. Because if, in fact, they fight again and he does not work on staying away from that looping hook as he goes to the body, it's going to be the same scenario all over again. I would like to see him have another fight and then maybe fight again. But Errol got to do a little bit of homework, because he was outclassed in that fight.
Yeah,
and he's got to do some homework.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. You gave one of them. Like, yeah, I mean, because that seemed like a timing thing. He's gonna definitely have to change up his rhythm, and a lot of people said that Errol's best chance was to do his style with constant pressure, basically walk down, but he might really have to use a lot of lateral movement, and he might really have to box. It's kind of odd to say box, because I think the knock on Bud is when he can box, he chooses to bang, and sometimes he might get caught, but he always seals the deal and closes the show. So I think that he needs some more lateral movement. It might have been some predictability, and then for me, the elephant in the room is, man, I would like to see Errol when he get in there. I like to see him bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But I'm not gonna go into that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even gonna go into that. I just hope that Errol is gonna be healthy. Since it's at 154, so the weight thing won't be, something that can be pointed out. He'll be healthy and strong, and they both agreed to it, because we was kind of in awe that it was a 147 and then a rematch of 154. That's just what was in the contract. Errol stepped forward, so I'm like, well, if he feels like he's stepping forward, he's gonna have to clear protocol and all that. But transitioning over into the bread and butter with Inoue, I saw one guy who was saying that basically Fulton, felt as though he didn't train right for that Inoue fight. So I don't know. Did you think that might have been it? Because I think we kind of talked about a little bit of it, saying he was a hype job and underestimated him. But I just want to know, because you are avid Inoue fan. Do you think that was really because of a lack of training?
I do not believe that he lost because of a lack of training. Okay? When you have a lack of training, that usually shows up towards the latter part of a fight, when it's obvious that you're fatigued. that you're getting tired. Okay? Maybe you're not in the best shape to go in a real tough fight. Okay? He did not appear, in my estimation, to be fatigued in that fight. What happened was, I viewed it as he was more or less being outclassed. And as a result of being outclassed, he eventually got hit and got hurt. And once he got hurt, he wasn't able to survive. So, a lack of training only prepares you for the endurance that it takes to go into the championship rounds. He didn't make it that far. So, you can't say that he lost because of fatigue. You can't say that he lost because of, his conditioning wasn't right. He got outclassed in that fight. The first round, optional, you can call it, even if you want. Or let's say you want to give Fulton the first round, okay? But after that, he lost every single round. And to me, it was inevitable. It was just a matter of him getting hit and getting hurt, and the fight ending in the manner in which it did. Could use an excuse saying, well, I didn't train properly. No, I don't agree with that. He lost fair and square, and he was KO'd. And he wasn't KO'd in the later rounds, where conditioning, fatigue, all of those type of things set in. So no, I would not agree with that assessment as to why he lost the fight.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of from words only, I think that it was underestimating your opponent. You know what I'm saying? And maybe in hindsight, maybe I saw a little bit of that after watching the fight with Errol. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it was an underestimation of Bud. But I think it was a little bit of underestimation. Thinking that, oh man, this guy's, his reputation preceding him, and he's not all that. He's not the big bad wolf. Kind of like taking, almost like how Keith Thurman took Manny Pacquiao. He was like, oh man, with your alligator arms and this and that, and Pacquiao showed up. Pacquiao showed up that night. But I think it was a little bit of that. But I had been reading some articles because, new pertinent news about Inoue and Fulton, it's rare to come by. But I heard some things about Inoue was saying that Stephen Fulton was stepping on his foot in the fight, and he was doing it purposely. He did get warned by the refs, and then it was a little issue where traditionally after a fight, for that night, the champion gets to hold on to those belts. Even though you're going to get new belts, you're going to get your own. And they said that Fulton and them was like, nah, you know what I'm saying? You can't hold them guys for the night. We got to go back with ours. So just going on, man, with our theory as far as them meeting up. If Fulton is to move up and somehow acquire one of them belts, I don't think we should burn bridges, but from the reports, I don't know if that's something we probably can cross off the list. I think that after Inoue conquers 122 and he gets, Marlon Tapales out the way, it could be possible that he's going to 26, even though some of our fans are going to chime in and remind me because everything gets updated. And I think that, man, believe it or not, man, they still gonna try to go for that tank stuff, man, ultimately, man. But I was looking hard for some news on Inoue, man. That's what I found. But I found that interesting, and being an Inoue fan, I just wanted to get your take on what you thought happened with Fulton. And you say that that was he just got outclassed.
Yeah. It wasn't conditioning. It wasn't training. He just lost that particular fight. The rounds that come up in a fight that really test your training and conditioning, they didn't even make it that far. So
Yeah.
he was just outclassed. His skill level wasn't suitable enough to offset Inoue and Inoue's aggression. Inoue was able to throw the type of punches that he needed to set Fulton up. He threw punches upstairs, he threw them to the body, and the punches to the body is really what began to offset Fulton, because the punch that he hit him and hurt him with, it all began with a body shot.
Mm-hmm.
Inoue kept going to the body, and Fulton kept trying to cover up to block off the body punch. And even Fulton acknowledged the fact that when he threw the punch to the body, he looked down and he never saw the right hand come over the top. That's because that body punch was used to lure him into a false sense of, I got to protect the middle. And Inoue perfectly threw the body punch and then came over the top. And Fulton said he never seen the punch. That's because it was set up through repetition. Constantly going to the body, and then now it's time to go over the top. And once he hit him with that punch, that fight was just literally it was over. He wasn't going to survive because of the aggression that Inoue has and the killer instinct. Once he was hurt to that level, he wasn't going to survive that round. I'm going to tell you the truth. I didn't even think he was going to get up, because he was laying on his back, kind of like with his eyes fluttering, looking towards the ceiling. But he did get up. But when he got up, he really wasn't in no real good shape. When he finally got the standing 8 count, and if you look at that good, he thought the round was over. It appeared that he was walking over to his corner, and the referee said, no, you gotta fight. He wasn't ready. It was going to end exactly where Inoue jumped on him at, which was over in that corner, and he wasn't coming out of that corner. So I don't put that on conditioning. He lost early in that fight.
Well, I mean, to wrap up on Inoue, man, I be trying to wrap my mind around things, and again, that's why I like having you on here. But I be trying to wrap my mind around things, and Tank is my guy, and I'm like, man, a lot of the knock on Tank is that it's all money. It's money. You know what I'm saying? It's not about legacy, which is, I think it's somewhere in the middle. He's found himself being able to get rewarded handsomely for every fight that he fought. But then on the other side of the spectrum, you got somebody like Inoue, who, not the pocket watch. I mean, they saying he walked away with a cool 10 mil. They saying that Fulton got like 3 mil, which was his highest payday. He's looking to give Marlon Tapala as his highest payday. And he's Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? And, Tank is King Kong, but are you still seeing like how Inoue still kind of like, everybody discount him as being small and, call him a midget? I heard somebody call him a midget today. Like, that little midget don't need to do this, what he need to do. And I'm like, how can we slam Tank for being the money man and being the cash cow and the guy that, everybody wants to fight? But then we got Inoue, who's in his 5th weight division, getting ready to get undisputed twice in a 12-month time frame with, a Hall of Famer like Nonito Donaire, and somebody had Fulton in there top 10 pound for pound prior to. Why do you think he's still not getting the credit? Even after this is sunk in, why do you think he still don't get his credit? And now do you see any of this stuff?
He's not an American fighter, and he's from Japan. That sums it up right there. They're being biased. They're being biased towards him. And anybody that's saying that they want to see him fight Tank, okay, all they're looking for is to see somebody topple this man. Okay? That's all they looking for. He has no business even considering a fight with Tank. He's not a lightweight. He's nowhere near the lightweight division. He's 3 weight classes from being lightweight. What Inoue is supposed to do is to get a match to try to unify the division he's in. If he's able to do that, his next step would be 126 at featherweight and attempt to capture, unify and be undisputed at featherweight. If he's able to do that, then his next move would be venturing into the junior lightweight division. If he's able to make marks in the junior lightweight division, win titles, maybe undisputed at junior lightweight, if Tank is still around at lightweight, then there might be a possibility of those two fighting. That's just like telling Tank, right now, what we want you to do, Tank, we want you to fight Canelo. How in the world this man gonna move 3 weight classes up and fight Canelo as little as he is? That's what they're asking in the fact of getting a fight with Inoue. That man's too small.
Yeah, I say yes. The fact that he's already in his 5th weight class and we're still 3 away. It's just like, yeah, it's and I'm glad you said, because to me it's maximum exposure. You know what I'm saying? Some people still have a built-in bias. And it's just like why we don't hear people campaigning for Harry Davies, who just like Martin Stan Young has been waiting in his place, about to get a belt with Rolly. The same way we do for somebody like Bivol, who Canelo really should be fighting Bivol. But they got Jermell Charlo doing something like moving up these 2 weight classes to do it. Now he's there to be great, and you can't really turn down the Canelo fight. But man, when I hear just unsolicited stuff and just an open diarrhea of the mouth when it comes to Inoue, it's just like, man, don't you know that you just making yourself look real bad? Just because you might be friends with a certain fighter. It's just like that's the whole integrity of boxing. You know what I'm saying? If Inoue can't get his credit for going up 5 divisions, and I will talk about him more. You know what I'm saying? That's like the bread and butter of of body work right now, because a lot of people tune into it. And if I had more information, I would stay on tuning. But I'm not just going to echo out anything about him, because nothing new is over there. And he's not an American fighter, but he is part of the creme de la creme. So, I try to keep the conversations going around him and try to keep some, put some fresh water back in the pond, because you let people over here talk about Inoue, it's just like they still talking that same philosophy that got Stephen Fulton stopped. You know what I'm saying? In devastating fashion is the same thing that people are saying. And I think maybe that worked for his advantage, man. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh no, he's not this and all that," and he just keep proving people wrong. So, just wanted to get your take on that, man. But only good thing right now is that, and we don't know, since the Frank Martin and the Shakur fell out, we don't know what Shakur gonna go do. We don't know what Frank gonna go do. More answers need to come out about that. But the Devin Haney and the Regis Prograis fight is on, and I think Regis he's saying he's up for that fight. Like it's not like his last opponent, who he might have overlooked. You know what I'm saying? Had, whatever going on. It was a hometown fight. He hasn't fought at home and stuff like that. Whatever. They set a record for the least amount of punches at 84 punches. But that's the next fight that's on deck. And so far, other than people trying to just, once again, trying to slander Regis going into this fight. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a good fight. And I think this is a fight where they both kind of really want to fight each other.
Oh, it is. This is a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, you're going to have Devin, which we all know Devin is a real good boxer, okay? And you're gonna have Regis that's gonna try to press the issue, because I don't think he wants to just get in there and just totally try to outbox Haney, because if he does, that would be more to a disadvantage, you know. So I would like to see him get in there, try to press Haney, keep him on his back foot, body work, keep punching upstairs, downstairs, backing him into a corner, and maybe trying to stop him. But to just stand in the middle of the ring and just try to outbox him, that plays to Haney's advantage, I think, because that's what Haney does. He's a boxer, and Regis does have 24 stoppages on his record, so I would think that he would try to use that to his advantage and make that work for him.
You got the boxer versus the puncher. Puncher being Regis, boxer being Devin. You know, he is at a Regis is at a reach disadvantage. I think they're the same height. Age, he got him a little bit, but this is for me, this is the first time I'm actually getting to see Devin Haney against somebody that he does not have all the advantages over. So that's why I'm like, okay, cool. Like, yes, you going for the smoke. You moved up. You fight the number one at 140. I'm like, man, you finally doing something that I wanted you to do. Who am I? But we getting that, and now I can truly judge him the way he needs to be judged. And I think that, because listen, I'm going to tell you this. They either want Devin Haney to be calling himself Dev Dollars, just like Money Made, which I think is a little corny. Or, you know, one of his avid fans, they call him Mr. 36 Minutes. Now, let me ask you this. My philosophy is, yes, it's cool to be able to say that. But also, if you call yourself Mr. 36 Minutes, that means that you're always going to put it in the judge's hands. So, you know, I often say that Devin is, you know, his most impactful on the offense when he's, you know, comfortable in throwing his combinations, but he's also his most vulnerable because he can get caught. And there's still questions. We know that Regis can put him down. We know that Regis has, he can change the fight with one punch. And Regis, I was joking around saying Regis sounded like he had Tourette's when he said this, but he was like, I'm going to stop Devin Haney. I'm going to stop Devin Haney. I'm going to stop. So, you know, it might be one thing to go in there just bullheaded, you know, because you don't want to go in there like T.O. did with Cambosis, just overzealous like a bull in the china shop. But Regis is up for this fight. He's tired of it. He said, look, man, I don't care who's rooting for me, who's against me. It's only two people can get in that ring. And that's the kind of energy you need going against Devin Haney, because the fan base is actually going to get on him. They already started. So I think that it don't need a whole lot of extra to this fight. But I think that this is a sneaky good fight, man. And surprisingly, because I thought that Stanionis and Virgil Ortiz, I thought that had fight of the year, 40 potential. But this fight, the way it is, because Devin moving up, he's supposed to have more power. Regis trying to show that, hey, look, man, you ain't coming up here and taking my cornbread. So I think that this fight is a sneaky good fight, and it has fight of the year potential. I already did the tell of the tape. I'm going to get into more of the CompuBox. And to note, Regis Prograis is more defensively oriented. He's actually in CompuBox in the top 10 as far as defense, but people really don't see that, especially with that last performance where he self-admittedly got dropped. So I'm kind of excited for it, you know what I'm saying? You excited for that fight?
Oh, definitely. I can't wait for that fight. Cannot wait.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch base with you, man, and talk about some of the marquee names, man, and just, you know, get back in the lab with you and get your take, so I don't seem like so much of an extremist, you know, because sometimes you talk me down off the ledge to give me a different perspective, but you'll chime in, and I gotta actually listen to what you gotta say and consider it, you know what I'm saying, and it helps, you know what I'm saying, because boxing, you know, the gossip and the juiciness, that moves 100 miles an hour, but the fights and all that, man, that moves at a snail pace. So I just be trying to stay sane.
Sounds good to me.
All right, well, I'll get with you, man. It was good chopping it up with you, and we'll do it again. I'll be sending you some more stuff, and you know, if something cross my path, I'll send it to you.
Yes, sir. Sounds good, and you enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right, you too. Have a good one.
All right.
All right, peace. Well, that was my old head K. Doing some of that good old body work, you know what I'm saying? He does give me a level head when it comes down to talking boxing and, you know, looking at boxing through the right lens. I know he's an avid Inoue fan, so I try to feed our fans in that way. That probably is the hottest topic we got going on, and it's, you know, it's no secret that the man is headed for legacy. We talked about Errol Spence, we talked about Devin and Regis, we talked about Fulton. And, you know, we still got to get some answers, you know, from Spence about the rematch and about him and, you know, Frank Martin and what's going on. Derrick James, that question, you know, things like that. Anyways, I don't have much more for you, man. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. The Oracle, ldHead, Hutch. I hadn't seen you in a minute, you know what I'm saying? Some of my regulars, I want to hear from my regulars, man. How y'all been? Salute to all of y'all, man. We went to, I think we at 691 now. But we was at 690. You know, we build this channel brick by brick. You know, we don't do a lot of sensationalism. We try not to be too extra, and we try to be respectful about these fighters. We just love talking boxing. Thanks for tuning in here at Bodywork Boxing, where we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.